Mm-hmm. Imagine all our viewers are in Drew's class or about an 8th grade level. If you just break down those simple things, what is a heart attack? What is a heart attack?
A heart attack is when the artery that supplies the blood to the heart muscle, just like your arm muscle gets its blood supply, the heart muscle, which pumps blood to the body, needs its blood supply, so it gets blood vessels that go to the muscle to allow it to squeeze. And if one of those arteries is clogged up to a point that it's a 95 or 99% narrowing, just completely blocked or almost completely blocked, that stops the flow to that part of the muscle. So if the muscle's squeezing, this is your heart squeezing like this, the arteries are wrapped around it, one of those arteries close off, that part of the muscle then cannot function. And that sets up for things to happen. The worst scenario is sudden death, and that's still, the leading causes of death is sudden death. The other thing is the heart attack itself, which can cause permanent damaged muscle and make it where the person develops heart failure, or they may have just years of discomfort when they walk. But when that heart muscle can't function normally, and all of a sudden is one side is not squeezing right, then it sets up for all those bad things to happen.
And you've got how many arteries then going into the heart?
There's 3 major arteries. Again, if you think of the heart about the size of your fist, like you're throwing a baseball, wrap 3 fingers around it. Those are your 3 major arteries. The 3 major arteries went to the front, right, and back. And that is the part that we're talking about. They come off the aorta, but the blood goes to the heart muscle like that. With that, other things that we worry about can be heart failure that can be due to these arteries or not. If it's not due to the arteries, the muscle itself can just be all of a sudden just very weak. It can happen from a virus.
So even if there's great blood flow getting in there,
correct.
Still the heart can be very weak.
Correct, because you got the muscle, you have the supply of blood to it from the arteries, you have valves inside that can have problems, that can cause heart failure, and you have an electrical system within it, just like a car has a starter. So if you think of that, it's not just the heart attack, it's not just that blocked artery that we're concerned about. That's what people hear most of.
Right.
But there's heart failure due to just a weak muscle, there's heart failure due to valve problems, and there's electrical problems that can cause people to have abnormal rhythms that can be life-threatening, or cause another type of stroke that comes from the heart. So those are all the things that the Heart Association supports, along with just the heart attacks that you hear about.
And as a cardiologist, you're seeing all those aspects that could have a deleterious impact on the heart. You're seeing either the valves are having some issues, or even the heart's just slowing down for a multitude of reasons, or the blood's not flowing through the artery.
Correct. People hear about pacemakers. That's for the electrical system when it's too slow. There's the defibrillators. That's a device that's used to treat people that go into life-threatening rhythms like ventricular tachycardia or ventricular fibrillation. So that's on the electrical side. You hear about valve replacements for the valves. And when heart muscles are weak, there's not as much, but we're starting to get more research and more things that we can do besides medicines alone.
Right. And what is the one you deal with the most often, Andy? What is the, whether it's on an emergency side, or is there something that you see the most often? Is it the arteries getting
Still,
clogged?
it's the arteries. The arteries would be the leading cause of the heart problems. I would tend to say, if I was a number, 50, 60%, maybe as much as 70%, but somewhere in that 50 to 70% range is the arteries that are the problems. And those are the things that if people are educated and aware of the warning signs, and the most classic are the chest tightness or pressure. People will grab their chest and do this type of discomfort, and often they'll say, well, it feels like indigestion, but if they think about it, it may feel like it, but it's not the same as indigestion.
Sure.
They get short of breath. They break out into sweat, pale, nauseated. Often it's chest tightness pressure that radiates to the left shoulder and arm, jaw, neck. It can go to other places too, but that's the classic. It could be even burning or an aching, constant discomfort, but the pressure is the one you hear most commonly.
When we hear someone say, I had a quadruple bypass, or I guess the other ones, what does that mean, a quadruple bypass? Is that when you talked about the 3 arteries, does it have some impact on that?
It does, and if you think of the heart attack issue or angina, which is the symptoms prior to it, when we get people like that, we can treat them with medicines and do things, but then we do a test called the heart catheterization. That actually is where we inject dye into the 3 major arteries. And when we inject dye into those 3 major arteries, then we can tell if there's any major blockage. If it's just one artery, we can usually do a stent or a balloon. The stent is a mesh wire that's wrapped over a balloon that's deflated at the tip of a catheter that's able to get to the artery, get in it, then inflate, open up that stent, and it embeds into that artery to keep it open. For 1 or 2 vessels, if that's usually what we do, but if it's all 3 vessels or the left main, that's when we recommend bypass surgery. Bypass surgery, we're not talking just a procedure. We're now talking where you have to have your sternum cut, be put to sleep, etc. And it's a big ordeal. However, the risk and the outcomes are so good now. It's unbelievable. I can tell you the work that Brian McIntyre and his group does at Grand Strand, their mortality, the people we send from Conway to them is less than 1% mortality. It's amazing. It is truly amazing what work they do. The national average, I think, is about 2.6%, but they exceed that and just do a super job.
That is fantastic. Well, whether you're sending them there, of course, you've got, I mean, critical needs at times. You may not be able to get to somebody there. A lot of our viewers are in the PD, I guess, McLeod or Carolina's hospital system, or down to Charleston, probably MUSC, and a place down there would have a great place to turn to.
Correct. Very good outcomes. Bypass surgery has really come along, and for better is the stents have really now become more used and balloons more used so that people don't have to have the surgery as much, so they can have the arteries actually opened without having their sternum cut. But there's a balance. Some situations are better for bypass, some are better for stents or balloon angioplasty.
Brian, just like you, and Glenda, just like Patty, constantly donating time and dollars year after year. I think you shared with us before we started filming this morning, Andy, that even though y'all are a major sponsor and you're co-chairing the event, and you and Patty have been doing it year after year, there's just a scheduling conflict. February 17th happens to be a bad weekend for y'all, right after Valentine's. I think it's President's Weekend, President's Day, the following Monday. Why should folks attend the gala, even if they couldn't be there? Why should they still be involved?
Well, the support is going to help family members. It's going to support friends that you know. I mean, everyone out there that, if you think about it, you know people that have had it. So it's going out to help those people. All because I can't be there that day doesn't mean I can't still support it. I mean, I can, my sponsorship still can be used to the same level, and I can, if you look at it from a business relationship, you probably get even as much or more because you can send your referrals, you can send your colleagues, your business associates, your staff who have done all the work for you for the year. So, there's ways of rewarding people, and there's ways to, kind of pat people on the back in different ways for different reasons by doing it on a sponsorship way. Donation, because it just helps people. From the auction items, if you can get an auction item in there, you don't have to be there. I mean, that is a very, very good way that you can help the Heart Association raise money.
And to get it in front of 1,000 people. I mean, a real opportunity to build the name of your business, if you're a startup business or if you're a large one like Redline Power Sports. Still a tremendous way to get that auction item in front of 1,000 folks, many of which could easily be walking to your store the next week or even a year later to buy something.
And I've had people come up to me and say, there's this business person out there that I'd like to be like, and I see they go to the Heart Ball, and I want to go to the Heart Ball. I want to, so it's a good way to get your name in out there, mingle with people that you may see as business associates and other things like that too.
Absolutely. Well, we're so thankful Waccamaw Cardiology is stepping up $3,750 to have a table of 12 there, be able to get the word out. And clearly Conway Medical Center, again, stepping up for a gold sponsorship of $5,500, but their sponsor levels as basic as $1,250. Or our guest tomorrow, Larry Amick, who co-founded Understanding Corporation, who's given us $22,500. A triangle-based technology company. For them, you wonder why they're interested in the Myrtle Beach area. I think they're interested in fighting heart disease and stroke. These are gentlemen in their 60s. They recognize it impacts not only them, but even potentially their children, if not their parents or them, their children or others. Everyone's impacted, and stroke's another key. When we talk about the number one killer, we just got a couple of minutes. What is a stroke, Andy? How many folks are impacted by that?
A stroke, there's two types of stroke. One is where the artery is blocked, similar to like the heart attack. Another is where the artery actually ruptures or gets a leak in it. And those arteries are within the brain. The clots are often either caused from a plaque coming off the carotid artery, that is the artery that feeds your brain, one on each side, or it can be from a clot coming from your heart with people that have abnormal rhythms called atrial fibrillation. So there's a couple causes for that type of stroke. The other type of stroke, it can be small ruptures within the brain, hypertension that's not under control can lead towards that, and some people are just born with weaker arteries that may cause that to happen. But that then not affects the muscle, but affects the brain tissue.
Right.
Some of it will come back. Some people will have complete resolution, but other people are left inability to walk or inability to speak or things like that.
And we got less than a minute, so we probably don't have time to talk much about your service for the last 4 or 5 years on the Governor's Council on Physical Fitness, nor about the South Carolina Health and Fitness Act. But it sets the stage for us to get you back another time to talk about those down the road. It's been tremendous. You were appointed by the governor 4 or 5 years ago to get on that group to help him out to get the state in better shape.
Correct. It's really been an eye-opener for me with childhood obesity, which the Heart Association really pushed last year for education and financial support, and how now we've been able to get out to the schools, get the vending machines out, get better healthy choices, get more physical fitness in their program on a weekly basis. That's mandated now by the state. So I think we're going in the right direction with all that.
Speaking of that, we're heading in the right direction. We'll get you back another time. Thank you, Dr. Andrew Gresko.
All right. Good to see you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Andy Gresko coming up next. You heard Andy talking about some of those heart attack and stroke symptoms. Every second counts. Every second counts. It's groups like the American Heart Association making a difference every day, and every second counts. This time right now, you get up, go make a phone call, 843-626-3939. Tell them you want to volunteer. You want to buy a ticket. You want to get a sponsorship. You heard Andy talking about not being there on February 17th. He's one of a handful of folks in town who won't be there, because 1,000 folks will be, and you can be a part of that. It's a tremendous evening, February 17th, Kingston Plantation. Think about that first time when CPR came out, or the first pacemaker. Breathtaking, just breakthroughs, incredible opportunities, and it's thanks to the American Heart Association. You can be a part of that. You have no idea what the next the researcher anywhere, whether it's in South Carolina, North Carolina, somewhere worldwide, thanks to the dollars provided at events like this year's Heart Ball, you can make a difference. Give them a call, 843-626-3939.